Hey everybody, welcome to Aniki, the podcast about anime with two brothers. I'm Ben.
And I'm a Yosei.
That explains a lot of things about your life.
Doesn't it? Why I'm always smiling?
Yes.
I do have a nasty sweet tooth. I don't multiply when I'm having fun, though.
Question, if you have a massive sweet tooth, why won't you drink sugared iced tea?
Because it's gross and terrible.
You're gross and terrible. That's the only way to have iced tea.
No, that is an abomination.
Is it?
I'm a bitter man and I deserve a bitter tea.
That's fair. What about coffee?
Coffee's just a fancy delivery service for cream, to be honest.
Do you put sugar in your coffee, though?
No.
Or do you take it black, like your men?
Like my men? No, usually just milk. If I put sweetener in it, it's flavored sweeteners, right? So it's like syrups.
I guess. I mean, that's sugar.
But I don't put sugar in it. Well, yeah, but it's flavored sugar.
Oh.
Not just sugar.
Just sugar. I see. So what have you been up to?
Overwatch.
A lot of Overwatch.
Yeah. And I accidentally all of Boku no Hero Academia.
Oh, did you? My wife really likes that show, but I haven't seen any of it
Show's
yet.
pretty good. Okay, so you know the tune-in exam of Naruto? You know the one good part about Naruto?
I never made it that far, but I'm aware of it.
Okay, it's that.
Just the whole show.
Basically, it's that, but it's it's a lot tighter because you know the tune-in exam arc of Naruto is like 72 episodes or some such nonsense.
Mm-hmm.
Don't tweet at us about that. I'm sure it's actually more like 58. But this does basically everything that is done in the tune-in exam in 34 episodes.
Well, that's good.
It's a lot more condensed. The characters are a lot more developed. They're a lot more interesting.
Good. I think I dropped Naruto.
The art style
like
is
10.
very unique. So, I mean, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I've seen pictures of it. And
Yeah, no, I mean, it's good. I can definitely see why a lot of kids today and younger people today really, really like it. And it's because they weren't around for, Naruto and Bleach when it was good, i.e. the first couple arcs.
I remember the
what this
first
is.
episode of Bleach in the first season.
This is the first couple arcs of a shonen, so it's pretty good. But it is tighter than most shonen, so that is nice.
Is it an ongoing thing or is it like done?
Season 3 comes out April 7th.
Yeah.
I hope it stops after season 3, maybe a fourth season and then stops. Well, what's nice is it was season 1, 12, season 2, 24. So it wasn't like, it hasn't been just going since it started, which is a decent sign.
Well, that is good.
So
Most of them just pump out one a week until forever.
I know. I really hope that it can tell most of its story in 72 episodes. Because if you can't tell your shonen story in 72 episodes, I think you're just not.
Although, one could raise the argument that if you finish your shonen plot in 72 episodes, perhaps it wasn't actually a shonen plot.
Well, no, I think it was.
Because a shonen plot is supposed to carry on forever.
I mean, that's fair.
See also Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball Super,
Yeah.
Naruto,
Yeah.
etc.
Yeah.
One Piece.
Yeah.
One Piece will never stop.
No.
It's the one constant in our lives besides taxes and death.
Yeah. I mean, if you have like an actual like political show like Legend of Galactic Heroes or something, it's like, sure, you can go on forever. This just makes sense because like you have a very complex event to talk about.
It stopped.
But I know it stopped, but it was like a bajillion episodes.
Only 108.
Yeah. But, your shonen just doesn't have a plot that's deep. There's a bad guy that's better than the last bad guy that we now have to beat because he's a worse bad guy than the bad guy.
Oh, that reminds me of a thing I need to show you.
Oh.
If I can find it real quick. Nothing can summarize Dragon Ball Z or Super like that image.
That's true. No, that sounds about right. Replace that with how many times is he going to surpass being dead? Goku's so cool. How come he's dead all the time?
Now, I haven't seen Super, but in Dragon Ball Z, he only dies twice. I think.
Well.
No, is that right? Does he only die twice?
I have no idea.
I think he only dies twice.
Sure.
I believe that's correct. He may die more in Super. I don't know.
I think that's also a James Bond movie.
You only die twice?
No. Yeah, I was right. Good job, me.
Good job. So the only thing I've done since last we spoke is I finished the 5th Harry Potter book.
Oh, the Goblet of Fire? That one's pretty good.
No. I finished Goblet of Fire, but also Order of the Phoenix.
Oh, that one he's an angsty teen, and he's a very well-written, angsty teen, but it makes you want to kill him.
You are correct.
I will give it many bonus points for having a very accurately written shitty teen, because he is the most shitty teen.
Well, I told my friends this when I was about a third of the way through the book. I was like, if it weren't for the fact that this Umbridge lady deserves a horrible, terrible death, and I want to see that, I would stop reading this book because I want to kill Harry Potter.
Oh, yeah. No, he's terrible in that book.
He's literally the worst.
And it's one of those things where I can't tell if he's written that badly on purpose or not. Because, again, everything he does in that book is perfectly in line with being a shitty teenager.
Yep.
But also, it's very hard to read because he's such an accurate, shitty teenager.
Well, it is explained at the end of the book that everything that could have been fixed easily because he was just being a shitty teen the whole time is Dumbledore saying, maybe I should have told you things instead of just relying on the fact that you were a normal adult instead of a terrible, terrible teenage boy with feelings.
Yeah, well.
Yeah.
Dumbledore's actually a bad person, so. He kind of is.
He's definitely overconfident, especially with his grand plans. So I'm on the 6th one now, which is Half-Blood Prince.
I liked that one. A lot of other people don't, but I do.
I have heard from friends that towards 6 and 7, she starts writing to the audience instead of writing what she was originally planning. I don't know how true that is.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's the impression they get. It's not really the impression I've gotten. I'm still on board the Cho train, but after the 5th book, I was like,
that's not happening.
Cho, you definitely don't need him in your life because he's just crap.
He's the dirt worst? Yeah, let's just go ahead and say he's the dirt worst.
Yeah. Of course, Hermione's not much better. Instead of giving him good girl advice, she waits until after he gets in trouble with girls and is like, well, didn't you know these things? He's like, well, no, I didn't know that. Why don't you tell us more about that? Boys. And then she just leaves.
Yeah, well.
Come on. Seriously.
What do you do?
Not pay attention to teenagers because they're dumb.
I mean, yeah, teenagers are dumb.
We need less teenagers in the world. They should just be shipped off to some school somewhere until they're adults, which I guess is what Harry Potter is. Now to think about it.
Yeah, and they should
and not write about that.
Not only that, but they should all be sent to an island to even be able to go to that school.
Yeah.
And they have to fight, and whoever lives on that island are the people who can actually go.
Just the last one, though, right?
Yeah, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Obs.
So speaking of everything being terrible and the worst,
yeah,
I would say that maybe humanity has declined.
Yeah, that's true.
Segue?
No, well, I don't know. The segue did herald the decline of humanity, to be fair.
Nice.
See, now that
was a segue.
Is both a literal and figurative segue.
Yeah. So, this episode, we decided to watch Humanity Has Declined, which is based on some light novels that were written by Romeo Tanaka that ran for 11 volumes until 2011.
I don't think they've ever hit the States, which is
I don't think they have.
Let's check the good old Amazon.
And I think he actually started that in 2007, which means he wrote 11 light novels in 4 years.
That's pretty good.
That's very productive.
We can get the DVDs. We can get fairy sets. That's adorable.
Sets of fairies?
They are very expensive.
Oh. How much for a fairy?
Well, it's technically a whole set, but you can get the whole set of fairies, each different one in a different part of the dance from the opening, and it's $96.
But how many are in a set?
A bunch.
Enough to populate your own island?
Oh, one can hope. Enough to reenact the rise and fall of nations.
So yeah, this was an anime that came out in 2012. Before we launch into spoilerific town, what did you think of it as a whole?
I like it. It is very strange. It's an odd show because it's a comedy, but it's not really a gag show.
It's very
It's a subtle humor. It's very similar to a British sitcom.
Yeah, it is.
In that
kind
it's
of.
just like subtly satirical and like isn't over reliant on gags, which is odd for an anime, especially because anime loves just to be gaggy when it's humorous. This is just like very subtle, low key humor, very absurdist, very good,
very absurdist. All the situations are very just off the wall, and you can't really figure out how anything's going to be.
And it's nice to have a main character that's just utterly cynical.
Yeah, she's pretty sardonic.
It's pretty great.
And, of course, the Shaggy Dog jokes, because this show loves nothing if not a Shaggy Dog joke. They will set up a joke for an entire episode.
Oh, yeah, they will. Just to like hit you at the end.
Really?
It's a time paradog. Good Lord. Ben, it is a time paradog.
Yes, it is. It is definitely a time paradog. I would probably give this show a B.
Yeah, it's like a solid like C plus B. It's weird. It's not a laugh out loud kind of show.
It's not, and I thought that's what it was going to be, so I was a little let down on that. But I guess if you really like just crazy bonkers crap and just hating the world, yeah, you should, if you like absurdist stuff and off-the-wall situations, weird setups, Shaggy Dog jokes, and just
well, I guess we should, before we go into full spoiler tags, we should at least like set up like what the show is actually about.
Oh, yeah.
In so much as it's about something.
Sure.
Well, it takes place in a post-apocalyptic future where humanity has, it has declined.
Mm-hmm.
It follows our main character, who is the mediator. She has no name. She is the mediator.
I don't think anybody has a name.
Very few people do. Her job is to mediate between humanity, as in humans, and the new humanity, which are fairies.
Question mark.
They are yosei. They are little elf brownie sprites who basically can work magic.
They also have permanent grins on their faces.
You gotta watch out for them because they're tricksy little bastards.
Yeah, that's about right.
Easily influenced. I think that's the best thing you can say about them. They are easily influenced and are ready to like turn anything to 11.
Very enthusiastic about whatever it is.
Yeah.
As long as it's novel.
Unless they are feeling down.
In which case everything goes to hell in a handbasket real fast.
Goes down.
And so the whole show is just the mediator's interactions with other people and mostly the fairies.
Mostly the damn fairies. And the show is kind of out of order. It's very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little bit like Haruhi.
Yeah, this is like Haruhi. Not told in chronological order at all.
Yeah, it's told completely out of order. Almost backwards. But not quite.
It's pretty much backwards, I think. Well,
yeah, maybe it is.
Well, the first couple arcs go in chronological order, I think, and then it does start going backwards instead, right after the time management one.
I love the time management one. I don't know, the fairy subculture is very good. It is very, very good.
Right. So, I guess now we should go into Spoiler Town.
Yeah.
And talk about each of the arcs.
Yeah. So, Arc 1, the Fairy Secret Factory.
Uh-huh.
So how about that bread ripping itself apart?
Okay.
The bread robot who just wants you to eat him like every food mascot.
So I have seen that GIF in the past, and I had no idea what it was from. I didn't even recognize what it was right before it happened. I didn't know what it was until after it happened. So I was watching this first episode, and I was like, okay, well, this is kind of lighthearted-ish. The mediator is, she's pretty cynical, and I'd get behind that. But yeah, I don't. Nothing's really happening as funny so far. It's not all that funny. Maybe I made a mistake, and then the bread happened, and I had to pause the episode because I was about to die.
It's one of those shows that's like so like cleverly or darkly written that it's hard to know if a joke has even happened, because you're like, is this like some sort of weird dig on something? And you have to settle on it probably is. Am I not smart enough to get it? Maybe not.
Yeah.
But then sometimes it's just like, okay, here's your joke for you, pedants. And it's the bread ripping itself apart.
The best part about that scene is, while my wife didn't watch all of the show with me, she at least watched the first arc. And she was watching along, and she had this, I think she was having the same reaction I did. I kept glancing over at her and she's like pleasantly watching it. And then I just kept my eye on her as the breads thing happened. And her eyes just got this horrific, what?
Yeah.
And then she looks over at me like,
to you, right?
what is wrong with this show? And even a week later, like I just had dinner with her and some friends. A week later, she turned to me out of nowhere and was like, what was up with that bread?
What was up with that bread?
Why was he bleeding?
Well, because again, I think it's satire, right? So I think that whole first arc sort of satires corporate culture, and part of it I think is definitely like what is up. It's this Jerry Seinfeld joke of what is up with food mascots that just want you to eat them, and it sort of takes that to 11 and is like, here's a food mascot, he wants to be eaten. And what's even better is because like it's a bread robot that knows it is artificially made and has nothing real in it. So it's like very dark and just wants to be put out of its miserable existence.
Oh my goodness!
By fulfilling its purpose of being eaten, by ripping itself apart.
Yeah, I'll have to say that of all the jokes in the show, because I didn't see that one coming at all, it's got to be my favorite joke.
It's very good.
It's a really good joke.
Why are you bleeding? Oh, don't worry. It's carrot juice or something.
It's
I'm
for
not
the
sure.
Kids.
And just like how violent it is as it's crawling across the floor.
And then once it finally
leaving
goes
a
still,
blood stain.
as soon as it goes still, the human tour guide's like, well then, have at it.
There you go. That's that then.
Dozo.
Very good.
Yeah,
Very
the episode
good.
after that, I really liked the assistant's humor and his jokes.
I love his joke.
The joke was a solid A joke. What with his little cartoons.
Yeah.
And A through G son.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They all died.
Turns out George did it.
Yep. There you go. Down. Poor fairies.
Yeah, I really like when the fairies get depressed. They suddenly go from "we love sweets, everything is great" to "what's the purpose in life? I don't even know why we exist."
Yeah, they're very fickle creatures. I can assume that you probably find the first arc a little more entertaining than me, being that you have come from corporate world.
I understood more of that arc, I think, at a cynical level than from some of the others.
Yeah. Because it's very much like pass the buck, don't look too hard at anything so long as things are going well for you.
Yeah, especially in the first episode where she goes to a meeting, someone brings up a very simple solution, and they argue about how stupid that idea is for 6 hours until they're all tired. Somebody else comes in and says the exact same thing, and they're like, yeah, it's a brilliant idea, let's do that.
Yep.
And she even has a little motto at the end, which is never hold meetings. The outcome is determined before the meeting happens.
Yep. The outcome is predetermined.
I'm like, yep, that's about right. So the second arc, I feel, is more up your
fairy
wheelhouse.
Subculture.
Yes.
I do love fairy subculture. It is very good.
It is very comic culture in 20 minutes.
Oh, I love it. I love it. They just reinvent comic.
Yeah, the setup for that one is the narrator has this friend who finds some mini discs, and on these mini discs is what they think is going to be some great historical knowledge, but really it's somebody's yaoi collection, and they start printing it and selling it.
I just love how it's like a revival of manga culture, so-called, but it's just all BL novels.
All of them.
Just every last one of them is BL.
And it's not only her, like she started this thing, and then all these other groups start popping up, and then they have to run a comic-cat.
And they're all just BL novels, every last story.
And then at the end, the fairies catch wind of this, and of course they think,
oh no,
oh, this is a good idea. Let's make a comic ourselves. And so the main characters get stuck inside of a manga. Yeah, well, the way they present this is at the end of that episode, they're trying to figure out why they're in this big white room, and when they realize that they're inside of a manga, one of them goes "Shoku," and you got the title above them, which stays there, and they're like walking around it, going, "Why are there words above us? This is weird." And then they get hit with the Suzuku. Like, that's good. I like where this is going.
Then that whole second episode is just brilliant.
It is the most meta thing I think I've ever watched.
I love it.
Without it being too fourth wall.
Oh yeah, where they're just going up and down based on the based on their popularity.
Like, man, this is...
And they had to spend 137 panels to rewrite the story to make it make sense.
Well, not only that, but there was like this huge dig at the entire mangaka culture.
Oh,
when
yeah, of course.
when they look out of the panel into the margin notes to look what the editors are doing, the editors being the fairies, and they start seeing they see the fairies and they're like, well, you know, you got to keep those numbers up or else you'll get canceled. And then what will you do with your life? Because you're going to be 30, you know, or 40 and it's too late to have a real career. And you're going to be
no marketable skills.
No marketable skills. You're too old to go into civil society. So good luck with that.
And I love how they just the fairies continually say, if you hit rock bottom, you're dead. Don't even try it. You will die. It's terrible. And then they finally hit rock bottom and it's like, here's your punishment for hitting rock bottom. You'll have to work in the family business. And it's like, that's the worst thing.
Wow.
That is equivalent to death to you.
It's all your dreams, man. All your dreams are gone.
A+ fairy subculture.
Good job, fairies. The next one was the arc with the space probes.
Yes. And again, like that's one of those weird times in the show where it's like at the end it like pulls together something that's like actually kind of moving and serious. And you're like, how did you get from A to B?
I still don't know how they went from A to B.
I don't know, but they pulled it off, didn't they?
Yeah. Well, the third arc, man, how did it start? They find like this little monolith in the forest that fell to Earth. Yep. And then somehow they end up fighting with cat robots and goos that eat electricity or something.
Yeah, sounds about right.
And then at the end, it turns out the robots are the Voyager and Pioneer probes come home to tell humanity what they found.
Yep. And they have very sad moving.
Yeah. I have to say, I didn't really like that arc all that much, mostly because I couldn't follow it very well.
That's fair. That's fair.
And there weren't a whole lot of jokes.
And also, it's like coming right on the heels of fairy subculture, which is just like so good.
Mm-hmm. And then after that arc, we got...
It's okay, you get fairy time management.
Fairy time management was off the wall bonkers.
So great. So great. I think that's the phrase.
So I feel a little cheated because I knew the time paradox joke. But
yeah, I know.
But I could see it coming a mile away anyway. And the setup for this arc was really long.
Really? I really like it. I like how it's told in like these two parts.
Yeah, it's split into two things. So in the first, the whole setup, the grand arc of this one is the narrator has to go find or pick up the assistant.
Well, hold on. It depends on which grand plan. That's what the mediator wants to do. But the other plan is the fairies are worried they won't get enough sweets anymore.
And she specifically forbids them to clone her.
Yep.
That's what she said. No cloning.
No cloning. So they come up with a much better solution.
They're like, well, how can we clone her without cloning her? Well,
we'll just steal her from her timeline a couple times.
Yeah, until we have about 40 of her.
With a banana.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
She'll make a bunch of sweets.
Yeah, it'll be good. Great. Yay. So that's what they do. But the arc is told in two halves. The first half is the mediator trying to go... She's going to go pick up the assistant, but he isn't there. He's wandered off. So she goes to look for him and finds a bunch of copies of herself in the forest making sweets. And for some reason, she doesn't question this each time she encounters it. But whatever.
Well, I think part of it has to do with the
banana,
the magic banana, and the other part of it has to do with her just general cynical nature, where she's like, well, sure, why not?
Yeah, this is fairy stuff.
This is fairies. This is what I signed up for.
And then the second half is, they sort of gloss over the first bit, because you know that already. But the second part is the assistant's caretaker explaining what the assistant looks like each time the time loops. And so it's told in these two things, so you get the whole picture eventually. You do sort of get a punchline in the first half when you finally figure out that the fairies are up to no good. And they did all this because they were just told, don't clone her.
Don't clone.
Yeah.
No cloning, please.
And the second one is a big setup for the time paradox joke.
Time paradox.
I did notice during this that each time we see Grandpa, that's the mediator's grandpa, he's always cleaning a gun.
Yeah. So in the light novels, he's obsessed with firearms,
Uh-huh.
and you get that in the show at least, because they're relics from the past, and he has a whole wall full of them. And I like how anytime they show the office in which he works from behind his desk, just everything in front of him is riddled with bullet holes.
Everything is riddled in bullet holes except for the targets he has pasted up on his wall. Those do not have holes in them.
No, he's a very terrible shot.
Another small detail that I don't know that I liked, but I noticed it and I thought it was just really ridiculous, is the assistant's caretaker when she shows up. She's a doctor, she has the lab coat, but she's also got a frilly blouse and she has huge tracts of land.
Yep.
But also her pants, for some idiotic reason, have this cutout.
Yeah,
right
an arrow.
Right where the button is supposed to be, and it's cut out like a downward arrow pointing down yonder.
Yeah.
Like, not subtle here, are you guys? Of course not. Why is the show subtle? But I did like the banana. That was really well done.
It's a time slip.
It is a time slip. Of course it's a time slip. And I liked how they stopped when they're like, yeah, we've eaten enough sweets. Thanks.
Yep. Yeah. And they
We're
just
done.
let her go. It's like, here, this will fill in all the gaps of your memory so you can remember everything that's happened.
He was really obnoxious, but I really liked the mistaken assistant. The 13-year-old boy who was like, yep, I just love procreating. I procreate all the time. I'm going to procreate with everybody I see. How about you?
So do you think he's not the assistant, or do you think that's just the assistant?
I don't know who that is, honestly.
I don't know. See, I think it's the assistant, because like the way it works, right, is that the assistant finally learns to like define himself through the time loops. So what he's doing during the time loops is he's just like experimenting with all these different personalities he could possibly have.
Yeah, I could see that. That does make her statements at the end of the second episode more coherent.
Yeah, see, I think that's what he was doing, like every time loop, is he sort of realized he was in one, and that's
quite an experiment there. He took a lot of chances and risks.
Sure did. Yeah, but if you're in a time loop, what else are you going to do? Shoot golf balls through the Stargate?
Of course. That's what I would do. And so then we get to my favorite episode.
The fairy survival skills?
Yes, fairy survival skills is, I think, bar none, the best episode of the show.
The rise and fall of nations?
Yes. It's just perfectly done.
It's very good.
The narrator has to take 7 fairies who have been ostracized from their old culture, and she decides to grant them this island in the middle of a lake where no one else lives. And she's like, here, you guys just live over here now. Once they get there, they're like, can you be our queen? Because we need a queen to have a nation state, right?
Yeah.
She's like,
again,
sure.
the whole thing is just so deeply cynical and sardonic. It's very good.
And so they basically just run through how to make a country in 20 minutes.
Yep.
How to make one and destroy one.
And then destroy it.
They destroy it through making too many monuments to themselves.
Yep, to themselves. I just love that one fairy that makes opioids and has a seizure.
That was
she's like, banned, destroy it all.
Take him away.
Take him away. Ban this plant, please. He just tries it and just urinates.
He just falls over and pees himself. Like, nope, take him away.
Yeah, none of that, please.
Oh. I also did like how they used that particular episode to just sort of hand wave away. If the fairies can do pretty much anything, why can't they just make their own sweets? And they actually do that in this episode. They grow a plant that finally makes candy, but then they destroy it all in making monuments to themselves.
Yeah. Yep. But then they grow too fat on their own hubris.
Do they have? I guess they are the new humanity. So I guess it would be hubris.
Yeah. Stupid Yosei.
Let's see. Then we got episode 10.
I loved this one too, with her first introduction to the fairies Earth.
Yeah.
Her first day on her job, where she having been a fairy queen in the previous episode, in this episode, she's a god. The way she catches the fairies is amazing. The way she kidnaps the fairies is amazing. The way she names the fairies is amazing. The way the fairies wet themselves is amazing. The way she solves her problem of being God is amazing.
Here, you're God now.
You're God now. She just tags
I don't want to be God.
Now you have to deal with it. It's like, too bad, no tag backs. Everybody can only be God once.
And so they all
destroys their entire civilization.
What does that say?
I don't know.
It says something. Let's see. And then we have the last arc, which is
her in school.
Yeah, her
which
school
is really
days.
nice. It doesn't feature many fairies, but it is very good. And again, just like this weird, like
if you couldn't tell this show had gotten dark, this arc is probably the darkest arc of all, I think.
Yeah. Again, it's just like darkly sarcastic and takes a very grim view of people in general.
And kids.
Yeah. Yeah, man.
Yeah, all these kids are just literally terrible, and the mediator is probably, at least in the first episode of the arc, probably the worst of the bunch.
It's just very interesting. Well, because again, like what makes her bad is how cynical she is.
Yep.
She just can't take anything at face value.
Well, that's actually a good point. She spends the entire first episode of the arc avoiding this one girl because she's convinced that even though this girl is nice to her and wants to be her friend and such in school, she's convinced herself the only reason the girl is doing that is to control her because she's younger and the mediator is older. She's like, that's the only way she knows how to get control over me. And by the end of the episode and the beginning of the next, you're like, oh, maybe she's finally going to figure out that she was wrong. She's going to finally make friends. But then when
she finds out that she's a yandere.
And then she spies on her later in her room and finds out that she actually is controlling and possessive and fantasizes about stabbing the mediator multiple times when she doesn't get what she wants.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, not only was mediator cynical and sardonic, but she has factual basis for it now. And this informs everything about her future.
What I like you can really tell the author's like mindset, because like the show is called Humanity Has Declined, but all of the problems that are put forth in the show itself are just like mirrors of everyday like 20th century life too. I guess 21st century life.
How people are just bad.
So yeah. It's like, it's not that humanity has declined in the show. It's that this is a message saying humanity has already declined.
Ooh.
We've already given up the ghost.
Man, that's dark.
Yeah. The show's like weird and darkly sardonic and satirical.
I wonder if
it's very British.
It is very British. I wonder if that has anything to shine on, what was her name? Silver or Y?
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if she has an actual name in the show. I don't think she does.
I think it's Y is at least.
Y. The one that has the yaoi fascination.
Yeah, the yaoi
so
fetish.
we find out that when she was in school, she would go into the library and steal all the books that had anything remotely resembling homoeroticism in them.
Boys being more than just friends, as the mediator
But it
likes
wasn't
to point
just
out.
like BL manga. She was checking out like ancient Roman poems and stuff like that. Like all these thick tomes, and was just reading them. But instead of getting like any other message out of these ancient scripts, all she's pulling out is eroticism.
Oh yeah,
Yep, that's pretty
all
cynical
she's in
too.
for.
Yep, good job.
Yeah, no, the show's like weirdly dark.
I thought it was pretty funny though. Well,
I mean, it's darkly funny, right? Like it's a whole bunch of like weird, subtle, dark humor.
Yeah, and I think you're right. It is very British in that there's not a whole lot of like laugh out loud gags.
No,
but it's just like this running feeling of bemusement at the whole thing.
Yeah,
it's quirky, it's weird, it's absurdist,
and I do love the little fairies. They are very cute.
They're so creepy. They're cute, but once they start talking and they don't move their mouth, and then when they get depressed and sad and they still have those smiles on their faces talking about how they want to die, they're really creepy.
You do what you can.
I also like it when the mediator finally, anytime she has a point where her dark side comes out.
Oh yeah, it's very good.
It's like, oh, now you're a yandere for like 5 seconds. It's very frightening. But seriously, that bread is the best. It's the best.
I mean,
it's the best bread.
I would eat that. I would eat that bread.
Would you? If you had a bread robot come into your room right now.
If the moon were made of bread, I would eat it.
Fair enough. Wash it down with a tall, cool Budweiser.
I would do that.
Yeah, very good. B, at least.
Yeah. I give it a solid B. You have to like that sort of thing though, or it's just gonna fall completely flat.
It does have pretty backgrounds, even if you don't like that stuff. So what are we gonna watch next time?
That's an excellent question. I thought we had decided on Bakemonogatari.
We can watch that.
I do love Bakemonogatari. It's very, very
I'm
good.
going to have to keep a notebook on that one, I think.
Really?
What did they say?
Oh, yeah, they
go
talk
back and look.
very fast.
Maybe I can find a Cliff's Notes version.
Very fast. I do have the first light novel. Maybe I should read that.
You could do that. Read it and watch it at the same time.
Yeah. Well, I think the first light novel is just like the first 2 episodes.
Is it?
I think so.
Man,
or maybe the first 4.
That is a lot of words.
And what really makes it is just how gosh darn well directed that show is.
It's been a while since I've seen it. I'm also looking forward to seeing Shinjo Gahara again.
I do like Shinjo Gahara.
So I guess we will wrap up there. Oh, I forgot to tell you a story.
All right, tell me the story,
Okay,
and
so-
then I should go eat.
So the story is, do you remember a show?
Do I remember Love? Almost. It depends on whether or not Rick has been slapped.
Okay, so there is a show called 25 Sai no Joshikousei, which is 25-year-old high school student, right?
Sure.
And it's all about
Oh, yeah.
it's about this girl who's actually like 25, but her cousin who looks exactly like her keeps skipping school and blah blah blah. So she goes to fill in for the kid so she doesn't get expelled and falls in love with her history teacher.
That sounds bad, but a little less creepy if she's actually over 20.
Okay.
But okay.
So my friend was looking at this show and being thoroughly creeped out by it. But he was reading the Wikipedia page about it and realized there was something odd. There were 2 sets of voice actors for it.
Huh.
And he's like, well, that's weird. Is it just one set for one market and one for another? It's like, no, they're both Japanese. What's going on? So he Googled the names. Turns out one set is for the TV release, just normal voice actors. But there's another set for the Blu-ray release, which is happening simultaneously on another streaming platform.
That's odd.
That set are both hentai VAs.
Oh my.
And the reason is because the Blu-rays include a true to the original manga version of the story.
Oh my.
In which, and remember, this is written by a woman.
They bone.
They do not bone. It's weirder than that.
Oh my.
Apparently, the first light novel or manga volume is them setting up the plot, and she gets into the school and falls in love with the history teacher. But after that, 50% of the content is just fingering.
Oh my.
And that's it.
Well, I mean, someone knows their audience.
The manga knows what she likes, and
she's going to deliver.
she may know that in this day and age it's not proper, but my God.
You know, it takes a lot of something to just be like, you know what? This is what I want to do with my life.
This is my thing.
This is what I want to do, and no one's going to stop me. It's like, oh, I can respect that.
Takes all sorts, I guess.
Takes all sorts.
All right, so I guess we'll end it there. So we will see you next time on Aniki.
Yeah, on that note, hold on. You need to go out with the sorry, Animaniacs.
Good night, folks.
No. Here we go. Yeah, this will do it.
Number 1 sister, dust for prints. I found prints! No, fingerprints. I don't think so.
Yep, that
Fingerprints.
Joke. Fingerprints.
I don't think so.
Yeah, no. Yeah, all right.
Good night, everybody.